Black people approach all of our problems from the perspective of religion.
Right.
We do not approach our problems from the perspective of political analysis. We are not deep critical thinkers.
Right.
Our decisions are made on emotions. We shop based on emotion. We marry based on emotion. We vote based on emotion. We kill each other based on emotion. So what you're saying is let's take a logical, critical, intellectual analysis of what's going on with black people.
Right.
But don't associate with being black. Like say somebody from Jamaica or somewhere that say, I'm not black, I'm Jamaican.
Okay. Great question. Well, first of all, you got a lot of American Africans who don't associate with being black. Mm-hmm. So let's be clear about that. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, straight up a descendant of enslaved Africans, you understand? Yeah. And don't associate with being black. You know what I mean? You look at all the black celebrities who marry white girls, you know, they don't associate. So this whole notion of not association with black people is not limited to African immigrants, as some people would posit the narrative. We have just as many American Africans who are as guilty of the same thing. For me, coming from a Pan-Africanist perspective, it is a problem within the race. It is not a problem of any particular branch of the African family. In other words, I see the same thing in the Caribbean, where you have African people who don't want to be bothered with African people. I see it in the UK, where you have African people who don't want to be bothered with African people. I see it in Africa. I see it in South America. That is a problem of the race.
Why do you think that is?
Self-hatred. Nobody wants to be associated with anything they consider to be an object of ridicule. Black people will always be scorned by everybody, even our own people, until we make ourselves an object of respect. And we cannot make ourselves an object of respect by begging white people to solve our problems. White people are never going to solve black people's problems, but they will keep you believing that they will, i.e. the Democratic Party, i.e. the President of the United States, i.e. the Congressional Black Caucus. Hope is a very, very powerful weapon against oppressed people, because oppressed people tend to rely on external intervention more than other folks. And they tend to also be extremely religiously immature. So they're looking for God to help them before they help themselves. They're looking for the government to help them before they help themselves. So if I want to control black people, all I have to do is make them think help is coming. Never deliver the hope. In every election, you're promised that if you just hang in there with us, 4 more years, things will get better. Well, guess what? Average black person life expectancy is probably around the mid-70s, early 80s. You divide that by 4 years of every president, whether you live through maybe 25 presidential elections. So all they have to do is feed you false hope for 25 presidential elections, and the next thing you know, you in the grave. And that's one of the strategies of white supremacy to keep black people from solving their own problems, is by making you think hope change is coming if you just keep hope alive. As Jesse said, keep hope alive. And speaking of Jesse, speaking of Jesse Jackson's 1984 and 1988 presidential campaigns, in retrospect, when I studied Jesse Jackson's, who was the first quote unquote serious black candidate for presidency of the United States, right? Now that I look at it in hindsight, I believe the Democratic Party put Jesse Jackson up to running for president. And the reason why is because the black vote was waning and they needed someone who could re-energize the black base. So what we're going to do is put Jesse out there. We know he can't win. He know he can't win, but he will energize the black vote and he will bring them back to the Democratic Party. And after he loses the caucus and the major Democratic candidate is anointed, all those black people who put their hope in Jesse will simply transfer the hope to the new white savior of the Democratic Party.
That? I asked this question last time you was here. Like, how do we galvanize blacks to get on one accord to, think it's the same way to get off the plantation from being democratic or anything that, of that nature? Like, what are some of the things we can do to galvanize the people as a whole to give them, incentive or maybe even hope at the same time?
Here's the big problem with that, and that's a very good question you asking, my brother. You got a couple issues. Number one, black people approach all of our problems from the perspective of religion. We do not approach our problems from the perspective of political analysis. We are not deep critical thinkers.
Right.
Our decisions are made on emotions. We shop based on emotion. We marry based on emotion. We vote based on emotion. We kill each other based on emotion. So what you're saying is let's take a logical, critical, intellectual analysis of what's going on with black people.
Right.
Deep thought and analysis is what we need. Black people don't solve their problems like that. We have been brainwashed by black religion to use our imaginations and our emotions. And that's exactly what the power structure uses to keep us hooked into their agenda. That's the problem. Black people don't want to think. We want to feel good. And anything that makes us feel good will get our loyalty. So what we have to do is we have to separate out black people who are ready to think from black people who are only interested in feeling better.
How do you move all of that?
I think it's the generation. The younger generation. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think the younger generation is attached to religion such as our parents and
They're not, but they are more attached to multiculturalism than the parents were. So whereas the weakness of the elderly generations is their religious situation, the weakness of the youth is their multiculturalism. So if we look at the 1960s and compare that to the black college campus today, if you went to the college campus in the 1960s, black or white, Stokely, Panthers, SNCC, Core, right? Active. It was all about black issues.
Right.
Go to a college campus today, we fighting LGBT, we fighting the environment, we're fighting for multiculturalism, we're fighting to get more blacks in the Republican Party. Anything except what matters to us, our young people on the college campuses are involved in that. It is a complete 365 degrees from where we were. Right. Is it 360 or 365 degrees in a complete circle? 360.
No, 360.
360. It's a complete 360-degree turn from where we was back in the 1960s. They have multiculturalized our young people, and our young people are also more materialistic. That's another weakness. So the strengths of the elders are the weaknesses of the youth, and the strength of the youth are the weaknesses of the elders. So the youth are very much more about X's and O's, measurable gain. But they're also more selfish, and they're also more multicultural.
But where's the sweet spot in that?
I think the sweet spot is with us.
Okay. You're talking about our generation.
Yeah.
With the sweet spot. Yeah.
But the problem with our generation, we suffer from both sides. We got the materialism, the multiculturalism, and the religious feel-goodism. Exactly. And not to go back to the Deion situation, but to see that many black men say he did nothing wrong and it wasn't his job to transform the HBCU into a paragon of athletics so that the HBCU can benefit from all the money that PWIs benefit from. That hurt me. Very few black men saw the irresponsibility in what Deion Sanders did, which tells me most black men have no problem at all doing nothing to improve the greater good of the black society. And that's a shame, because part of being a man, the masculine principle, is about building and protecting. And you have so many, even with our women, you hear black men say, listen, I don't date black women, I don't want a black woman. Then that means you have no loyalty to the black community. And I'm seeing more and more black men have less and less loyalty to the black community, irrespective of whatever form that takes. Whether it's marrying a black woman, whether it's helping build a black system, as in the case of Deion Sanders, a lot of black men could care less.
Do you think there's a plan to strip black masculinity?
Oh, absolutely. I think you see it even lately with what happened with Jonathan Majors, with the Snow Bunny situation. And these black celebrities still running around with these white girls is just insane to me.